Welcome to my video on measures of central tendency and spread, the mean, median, mode, and range. So what we're talking about here is the central tendency. We're trying to find the center of a typical value in a data set. So we've got a group of numbers, and we're trying to understand these numbers. Say there could be a million numbers. We're going to try to break it down into 4 basic numbers that give us some information about this group of numbers or data set. First, we'll look at the mean, the median, mode. This gives information about where the center of this data is. And then the range tells us the beginning and the end, or the difference in the numbers. And so we can reduce a million numbers down to 4 numbers. It doesn't tell us everything about it, but it gives us some information. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is how do we reduce a pile of numbers into some numbers that we can make sense of. The first one is the mean, or arithmetic average. This is probably the most common thing you've seen in the past, just in the real world. What's the average number of test grades, or whatever it is. So the mean, the equation is x, and we usually put a bar over the top, so it's x bar. And now this is just the summation of all the elements you're trying to average out, divided by the number of elements. So mathematically, this is written using a summation symbol. The summation from I is equal to 1 to n of all xi's, where I represents the number, individual elements, and then divide by the number of elements. So the example of a test score, we get the 5 students got 72, 85, 90, 68, and then 95. Now if we average this together, we take the 72 plus 85 plus 90 plus 69 plus 95, then we divide by 5. So that's 410 divided by 5 is equal to 82. So that's our average. Now one thing about the mean gives us really good information unless we have some really extreme values. Let's just say in this thing we had the test scores, we have 2 students scored an 8 and a 9. Maybe they were just not doing well that day. That would really skew the numbers down to the lower range, which actually most of the students did fairly well. So that's something we're going to talk a little bit more about, as what is an extreme value or outliers, a little bit later in the video. The next we want to look at the median, which is the middle value. Here what we do is the median is the middle value when data is arranged in order. So it's from smallest to largest. So we order the data first of all, and if the number of elements in the data set is odd, we look at the middle value. If it's even, we take the average of the 2 middle values. So take the little simple data set here of 3, 5, 7. There's an odd number of elements in the data set. In this case, the median is going to be equal to 5. Now, if we add one more number here, we got 3, 5, 7, and 9. What we're going to do is we're going to take the average of the 2 middle values here. 5 plus 7 divided by 2 is equal to 6. And what we're going to see on the median, if you have really skewed data sets, it's a little more, gives you a better idea of where the middle of the data set is. So it's just another way of describing a bunch of numbers, really. And then the mode, this is the most frequent value. These are the values that appear most often. So a set may have no mode at all. There's no repeated numbers or elements in it. A unimodal, which would be 1 or 2 or several. It could be just a group of very similar numbers, like this example here, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10. Well, the mode would be 10. It's the most common number. Now, this is really useful when we talk about categorical data, and I want to explain that in just a second. Let's look at some examples to give you an idea of what categorical data means. Say like you polled several people and you say, what's your favorite ice cream? Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, vanilla. Well, vanilla is the most common, so that would be an example of categorical data. Now, look at the number or the color of the cars in the parking lot. Red, blue, blue, black, black, white, and red. And so the most common would be blue. So your mode would be blue. Types of pets. You talk to some people, they've got a dog, a cat, dog, bird, and a cat. Well, the most common in this type of categorical data would be a dog. So this is a good way of looking at non-numerical data. Is what categorical data primarily is. Now, if we want to look at how big this data set is, what's the range of it? So the range, this is the difference between the largest and smallest data values. So it's the maximum minus the minimum. So let's take the data set here, 4, 6, 8, 10, 15. So the range goes from 15 to 4. We subtract those two numbers in this order, the largest minus the smallest. We get 11. And this is also affected by outliers because you might have one number, like in the case of a test score where you got a 10 and the rest of them are in the 80s and 90s, and that kind of skews your range. It has a big range. So an outlier are data points that are much higher or lower than the rest of the values in a data set. They fall far outside the typical range and can distort measures like the mean, and also give us a much wider range. So let's compare the mean, the median, mode, and range. The mean balances all values sensitive to outliers. The median, middle value, good for skewed data. And the mode is the most frequent, useful for categorical data. And the range gives us a spread, but is also affected by outliers. So together, the center plus spread equals a clearer picture of the data. So this gives us, these four numbers are going to give us some idea of what we're dealing with. Let's look at an example where we calculate all of these. So here's our example data set, 2, 4, 6, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Now to calculate our mean, we're going to sum all these up. 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 10 divided by 7 is 6.14. So that's going to be our mean. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. So our median is going to be the fourth number right here, which is going to be a 6. So that's in the middle. So the middle value is 6, and that's the median. We've got two 6s, so that's going to be the mode. The range is 10 minus 2, because that's the largest number, minus the smallest number, which is an 8. Now if we plot this on a number line, we can see the blue dots would be our data points, and our mean is going to be the 6.14. And these are all kind of bunched together the way this data is arranged. So the median is 6 and the mode is 6. So everything's lumped together right here. And then the blue X's are our data sets. So that's our range from 10 to 2. So that's an example. Now the real world applications of this, there are many. You'll see this especially on the average test scores, batting averages, all kinds of. You'll see this everywhere in the world. The median is a typical income. Let's be like in house prices. When you watch the business channels or the business reports, they do talk a lot about this median home price, because you have homes that could be very, very simple homes or very inexpensive, to homes owned by billionaires, which are worth tens of millions of dollars. So there's a big spread, some outliers in that data. So a lot of times you'll see the median used for income or house prices, because we have a big spread in that. And then the mode would be like the most common shoe size or shirt size. And then the range, we see this a lot on the weather report, the temperatures, the highs and lows in a week. So we see these numbers quite a bit. They help us understand the real world. So in summary, the mean is the average value, the median is the middle value, and for odd it's the middle one, for even it's the average of the two. The mode is the most frequent, and then the range is different between maximum and minimum. That tells us the spread of the data. So using all four gives us a more complete description of the data. Well, I hope you got a little bit of an understanding about the mean, median, mode, and range, and how that affects or how that helps us describe data sets. If you did, give me a like and thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. I want to thank you for watching.